about this meeting. This is the second one. Dave came and presented, Father Patty put together what we call the leadership team for the purpose of studying the bishop's book, discussing it, reading it. And as a result of that, the training for all the parishes in the diocese is happening. So Father Patty's really excited because we're kind of ahead of the game, Most Holy Trinity. So we're on the second go-round. So I did want to mention we do have coffee back there. Father Patty apologizes for not being here, but y'all know his schedule and how busy he is and how overbooked and double booked and triple booked he is. One of the things I'm learning in the office, thank you for your patience as I learn to fill Dina's big shoes. So without further ado, we want to welcome Dave Warwick here from the Diocese of Biloxi, Bishop Kinnaman's right-hand guy.
Oh, I hate that phrase! Good morning. It's always great to be at Most Holy Trinity. I always tell people it's the most welcoming parish I go to. Now it's got a beautiful church, and all that doesn't happen by coincidence. There's a culture here, and that's exactly why you guys are on your second go-around with this. You're ahead of the pack, and that's not just Father Patty. That's Father Patty in an inspired congregation who's backing him up. So congratulations to you. I'm going to give you a brief history about me. So I work for Bishop Kinnaman. I'm on his staff. And the way that came to be is I was in the Diocese of Corpus Christi. I ran restaurants my entire life. I got tired of that and I retired from restaurants. All I wanted to do was travel and eat. I have accomplished half of that. And I do get to travel. And then a friend of mine says, hey, there's a job at the church you need to go work for. And I said, well, the thing about retirement is you don't want to work. And so I said, I really don't want to. And he said, well, I already told the bishop, so he's going to call you. So the Bishop of Corpus Christi called me. I went in for an interview. Have you ever interviewed for a job you didn't want? There is a degree of freedom in that interview that you don't experience in a place. So I was like, well, that's stupid. Why would you do that? And this, that, and the other. And man plans and God laughs. And so here I am working for the church. There was a vicar general named Monsignor Louis Kinnaman for the Diocese of Corpus Christi. I worked out of his office. My main job was to kind of manage a $25 million capital campaign that the diocese had already launched. That campaign ended up doing very well, met its goal. And Monsignor Kinnaman says, Dave, I want you to come run my parish. So Monsignor Kinnaman had two very, very full-time jobs. He was the vicar general of a very large diocese, 100 and some parishes. And he was also now the pastor of the second largest parish in the diocese. So he asked me to come, and really what I was his administrator. I was his Janet. I was his Dina. When he showed up, he just wanted to be a pastor. You don't want to worry about the bills. You don't worry about the squabble in the staff. So that's where I came in. And we had a very, very great relationship. December the 16th, 2016, we got some incredibly great and saddening news that Monsignor Louis Kinnaman was now Bishop Louis Kinnaman. That very morning I woke up, I was late for work. I looked at my watch, I said, I am a professional man and I'm going to be late to work. Grabbed my phone, every single member of the 15-member staff of the parish had already sent me a text, which means there's something horribly happening at the parish. So now I'm thinking, I'm going to be late and I'm walking into a buzzsaw to work. First message I opened up showed Louis Kinnaman, the new Bishop of Biloxi. So the pressure was off. No reason to rush to work. The boss wasn't going to be there today. So I got off on that, got there, and long story short, Bishop Kinnaman asked me to come work for him on his staff here. And I think the reason he did that is because we had been working on his idea of what he's doing in the Diocese of Biloxi. We've been doing that in the parish in Corpus Christi. So what we're going to talk about today is an evolution of this concept of intentional discipleship. And this is more of a how-to, what needs to happen. And there's some gritty stuff in this. I remember I gave this presentation for the first time to the priest at their convocation in October. And I begged the bishop, would you please review this? It can come across as rough, that we're the church of nice. We don't like to have those really firm, honest conversations that you have in business sometimes. And this has that, and I need you to look at that. I don't know if it was by design or just couldn't get into a schedule, but it went cold right up to the meeting, and we did it. And it was well received by the priest. So we're going to go over some things here. I'm going to show you the why we're doing all this stuff, and I'll tell you you already know the answer why. But I'm going to show you some things that we're trying to incorporate in how we do business as a church. And when we talk about this needs to be implemented at every single level of the church. Ministries, parishes, dioceses, regions, the USCCB, this stuff, we have got to have a shift in how we do business, or we're going to be a much smaller church in a very short period of time. All right, any questions so far? Relax, the next 6 hours are going to be wonderful, I promise. Okay, so I wander, and I'm going to, it's okay, I don't need to be in that. I need to read the screen without blocking any of you. Okay, so everybody see that okay? Yes. So we're going to talk about mission advancement, and it's kind of a critical way of how we want to move forward. And to give you an idea of, when I first came to the diocese, the office that I run, it was stewardship and development. Now, when I say stewardship, what do you think? It's good Catholics? Money. Excellent. The church is so good at teaching the wrong thing. So, yes, stewardship means money, which means I run the appeal. Congratulations, you guys make your annual appeal. Matter of fact, I think Father Petty counts on you blowing the appeal goal so he has more money for the parish. You guys do it wonderfully every single year. So it was really the connotation where Dave runs into the money office in the church. In Bishop Kinnaman's understanding of that, it had to be much deeper. Stewardship is a much bigger thing. Every single thing that we have is a gift from God, and we are called to share our gifts with the greater church, with those that have less, with those that want. And it's not just the money. The greatest gift you have, I don't care what your income is, the greatest gift you have sitting in this chair today is the gift of faith in Jesus Christ. You're not here by accident. You are here because you were called and you responded to that call. And so we want to kind of shift away from that money aspect of things, and we want to focus more on the relationship. So let me give you an idea of what we're doing. Did y'all see that? I could change that from back here. When I gave this presentation to the leadership team, I had to sit right there and touch it. Okay, so let me tell you the why. The declining Holy Roman Catholic Church. This was a CARA study done at Georgetown University. It's a little dated. It goes back to 2013. So we're going to do a comparison from 1965 to 2013. 1965, there were 58,000 priests in the United States. 2013, there were 38,800. That's almost a 50% drop. Ordinations were down, same thing, about 50%. Mass attendance, 65 to 24%, a 41% drop. So we are already on a bad course. Does anybody think of anything that's happened in the last couple of 3 years that would have affected those numbers even more? The pre-scandal. What else? COVID. Not only are we having trouble coming to church, now we're telling them don't come to church. Do not come to Mass. And we're now rebounding from that. We're trying to come people back. I would guess, I don't have hard data, I would guess our mass attendance is 35% or lower right now. Now, what the bishops of the United States, and especially Bishop Kinnaman, is trying to do is avoid what's happened in Europe. Anybody want to take a guess what the Catholic attendance at Mass in Europe is?
10%.
10%, that's a good one. 3%. 3% of Catholics in Europe attend Mass. And if we don't reverse what we're doing in the West, we will be there very, very, very soon. So the people sitting in this room right now are the committed. You're the chosen. Anybody watch that show, The Chosen? Mm-hmm. You're the chosen right now. Here's another problem we have. The youth of the church that still attend Mass, even under protest, view confirmation as graduation. The bishop has laid hands, I'm done, Mom and Dad, I'm out. Now, the trend was, we would all go off to college or after high school, we would all go do our thing, and then we'd get serious with a mate, we'd get married, and we'd come back to church and raise our family in the church. Not happening anymore. When we leave now, we leave. We're gone. So, there's Mr. Einstein. We've heard this before. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. So let's talk about what we're going to do today. What we're covering today is what is mission advancement? What does that mean? Why do we want to move to that model of mission advancement? What does this move look like? And what are the benefits of it once we align everything? So if you've been in this diocese more than 30 minutes, or you've been to anything that Bishop Lewis Kinnaman does, you were going to hear him talk about the Great Commission. And that's Matthew 28. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always unto the end of the age. Now, Bishop Kimball will be the first, and he makes it, who's seen that little joke? If it wiggles, we baptize it. We are good at baptizing. We do it all the time. But what's the first thing in that scripture? What's the first command? Go and make disciples. That's uncomfortable, so we skip right over it and pour the water on the baby. And the reason for this was, we were starting out with 12 back in the first century. 12. And now we're at 1.2 billion. The church has lost its missionary zeal to share the good news of Jesus Christ. Bishop Fulton Sheen has a famous saying that said, it is not the Pope, it's not the bishops that will change the church. Who will do it? It's the laity. It's us. We will. Janet just referenced Father Patty's outrageous schedule. In the church today, and I will be the first to admit this because I work with a lot of priests, the gifts that call priest to the priesthood, the gifts that call men to the priesthood, are diametrically opposed to the gifts it takes to run a business. Can you name a quality of the average priest? What is the average priest? What are they like? Caring, humble, pastoral, forgiving, don't like conflict. Father Patty may be an exception to that last one. And then if you were going to run a business, can you always just let things go? Can you always look away? Can you always forgive? No, you've got to make some decisions here. People go, Dave, what would Jesus do? And I remind them that he broke out a whip and flipped some tables at some point. So it's not all rainbows and unicorns all the time. So this is that's our mission. That's the mission in mission advancement. So what does the word advancement mean? The advanced movement forward, moving something forward, progress, the state of being moved forward. So what do we want to advance? We want to advance our missionary call to baptize, to evangelize, to make disciples, to teach, and to make known that Jesus is with us. We're not in this by ourselves. So as we move through this, that's what you want to keep in mind. Our mission and what we're trying to push forward in this. This is Father Patty's favorite slide. He reminds me every time, and he made me include this in this. So if you will look at the big black arrow, it's moving in one direction. If you will look at, and let's call that one big direction, that one big black arrow, the parish. And then if you look at all the little white arrows in the black arrow, those are the ministries and families within the parish. Now, I'm in a parish, so I'm using a parish. That same thing can be applied at the diocese. You have the bishop and the diocese moving in one direction, and you have every single department that works in the diocese as the white arrows. Is that the most efficient way we can move forward? No, it's not. To help make the move to mission advancements, we need to be aligned in what we're doing. Aligned in our thought, aligned in our mission, aligned in our actions. Tim Blankowski, which if you're on the Bishop Kinnaman, Father Patty Book of the Month Club, this will be coming to you very soon if it hasn't come already. I've been with Bishop Kinnaman almost 10 years. I get on, oh, look at this. Look at this, here it is. You see, you are on the cutting edge. I've been with Bishop Kinnaman for 10 years. He gives me about a book a month to read after he reads it. And this is the best book that he's given me. This book nails it. Tim is a young guy with a family. He's out of the Archdiocese of Denver. He was in the diocese about a month ago. We got to meet him and just pick his brain about stuff. He is a young family man that identifies everything that we're about to talk about. And not only just talks about it, but he has a plan for it. So Tim says, segmentation is, for good or ill, very common in parishes, which means many parish initiatives operate in silos. Pay attention to that word silos. We're going to talk about that. Everything has its own bucket with its own staff person in charge, its own budget, its own volunteers. And because this is the way parishes operate, it can be far too easy to turn evangelization into just another parish silo. All right, I've got the evangelization ministry. How much money do I have? Where's my office? And I'll start a program. And that's how the church works. That's just the way we do it. That's just how it is. This is a silo. And for those of you that are city dwellers, the silo is on the right, the barn is on the left. So you notice how the silo is, it does its job, it's there, but there's no flow from it. Everything's in the silo. A glimpse at where we currently operate as a church. What are we doing? Sacramental Prep. Who here is in a ministry? Janet, are you in Sacramental Prep? Can you tell me what's going on in Sacramental Prep right now?
They just had first communion. I was at the Mass.
Excellent. Do you know how they did that, how they prepared for that, what books they're using and all that jazz?
I do not.
That's good. That was a great answer. It's almost like we rehearsed that. You did well there. Who's in RCIA? Anybody in RCIA? What do you think everybody in the parish knows what you do in RCIA? No. Most of the people just kind of figure out that. I'm not sure what those letters are, but we do that every year. And we can do that. And I give the communications tag, I give that 3 silos. That's like Pinocchio's for lying. I give that the communications 3 silos because communication is tough. You've heard the phrase that all problems are really communication problems. Well, the church takes that to an absolute, incredibly high level. We are just the worst communicators there are as a church overall. Now, there are parishes that do it well, and I think Most Holy Trinity does it well. But overall, we're bad. We're just bad at that. You know what the number one way we communicate in the church is? Today, in 2022, you know what the number one way we communicate what we're doing? Bulletin. The bulletin. It's a natural reflex. If you walk out of Mass and don't get handed something, you're like, I've got a reflex here. I didn't get my bulletin. It's the number one. So we're doing all this work on the left. All of those things, and that's just a snapshot. The liturgy, adult and youth formation, sacramental prep, all that takes time. All that takes money. All that takes the most valuable resource that we have as a church, and that is the people. It takes every bit of that. So we're doing all this work, and guess what we're getting? People continue to leave the church in historically record numbers. So common sense would say, why are we continuing to do things the way we are? Y'all remember this? I don't know if that's even acceptable in the world today to talk about Charlie Brown. So strange. Every year we do what we've always done with the same hope. There's Charlie Brown. I can do it. I'm going to feel the pigskin on my feet this time. And Lucy, year after year, we get disappointed, just like Charlie Brown. Working in silos, put another way, people roles in ministries that are doing good work, but they're not aligned to the mission, can often work against the vision of the parish and even against each other. It's like a circular firing squad. It's a waste of morale, it's a waste of resources, and it's good work. I am not taking away from the hard work that people put into it. If you are an RCIA, if you're a volunteer and you're working RCIA, that is blood, sweat, and tears. That is a long-term commitment to help people enter into the church. My question is are we getting the result we want from that hard work? And the answer is no. So let's be smart and reevaluate what we're doing. And just so if we're not sure, there's Mr. Einstein again. Those words just bear true. So let's talk about what mission advancement is and what it looks like. Am I blocking anyone? And everybody can hear, right? There'll be a test at the end. The philosophy of mission advancement is this. Mission advancement is a process. It's not a program. It's a process of aligning everything we do to the mission. Do I need to define everything? There are no exceptions to that. Everything that we're doing in this parish has got to be aligned to the mission. Mission advancement cannot be separated from anything we do. Not the youth ministry, not stewardship, not what the parish staff is doing on a daily basis, not what the music ministry. Everything we do has got to point to moving the mission forward. There should not be separate offices for these ministries, as that is compartmentalizing. And this is the one that when I gave this to the diocesan staff, I made enemies immediately, because this is change. Mission advancement should be a part of our DNA as a church and permeate through every office, ministry, and activity that the church offers in the world today. Any questions on that?
David?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm only going to say one thing. There are several ladies that are hard of hearing
Uh-huh.
up at the front, and they need to be close to you in order to hear you.
Sounds good.
And they're very important people, and we want their feedback after this. So
Yeah, am I good right here? Do I need to be in front?
probably closer. You're blocking yourself. There.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to peek around the corner, and I'm going to read this and I'll come back to it.
Thank
So
you.
does anybody have any questions on this right here?
A lot of them.
We'll do a one-on-one session after this. Maybe it was better you couldn't hear me. And this...
say that in the past, the church has been very hierarchical,
Very much so.
straight up and
Very
down.
much so.
And we don't care about the parishioners.
Right.
Just keep your mouth shut and do what I tell you.
Yep, you're exactly right. And I think I'm incredibly critical of the Second Vatican Council, not because of what the Second Vatican Council, the fathers, did. I'm very, very critical of what came out of the church that was not what the fathers intended of the Second Vatican Council. And I think the fathers of the Second Vatican Council did exactly what you were talking about, Chuck. And Pope John was famous saying was, we want to throw open the doors of the church for everyone. It was that stuffy, that hierarchical, that if you're not one of us, you're not welcome here. And that's happened over centuries of what we were doing. And I had a great problem with this forever, and a priest of mine told me one time, he goes, Dave, quit thinking as humans and try to understand the concept that God's trying to do here. Anytime the church does something major, the pendulum swings one way for 50 years, the pendulum swings the other way for 50 years, and in 100 years, God's got the church exactly where he wants it. When I was growing up, adoration of the Blessed Sacrament was almost extinct. When I was growing up, confession, we don't do that anymore. And you see in the church today, more and more places have adoration. More, the sacrament of confession, the importance of the family, all of that's kind of coming back into what the church is promoting. Okay, in aligning all that we do with the mission, we're saying that we will steward the relationships that God has given us. So quit thinking we got to go out and find people. The people that, anybody here have a family member not attending Mass? Oh, look, we're about 100% there. We don't need to go look for people. They're in our own homes, they're in our own families, they're in our own neighborhoods. So we don't need to go looking for people. Steward the relationships that God has put before us right now. We will help in making disciples by inviting them to grow deeper in their faith with Jesus Christ through engagement in the church. And when I say the church, I think of the parish. This is what the Catholic Church is to the vast majority of people. Now, when we have a pope die or elected, everybody focuses on the big, beautiful church in Rome. But for the everyday, this is the church. This is your community. This is where you receive your sacraments. This is where your friendships grow. After your immediately blood family, this is your second most important family. Now, if you don't know this, you guys are a little ahead of the pack on this too. You have a very good community here. You have a very, it's just a culture. I said it when I first got here. You have a culture of welcome in this parish that I remember Father Patty asked me to come and talk to us. He goes, "Say, will you come and give a little talk on legacy gifts to the parish?" And I did. And I said, "Well, when would you like me to come?" He goes, "Oh, can you talk at all the masses?" And I said, "I'd be glad to." And then I looked, and the man's got like 8 masses on the And I thought, I need to read the fine print before I say yes. Who has 2 vigil masses on a front on a Saturday? Nobody has that. And he's by himself. Do you know what struck me about Father Patty? Now, he had a visiting priest here. And so the visiting priest did 2 masses. Father Patty was at the back of this building. Every soul that walked in and every soul that walked out, he knew them by name. He told me, he goes, "Frank doesn't go to Mass here, but we're trying to get him to come here." That is a man that knows his flock, and his flock knows him. Wasn't that just in the readings a week ago? That's how it works. Who here, I ask this all the time, is there a soul that has ever told Father Patty, "No, I'd like to meet him"? Please, teach me your ways.
It works like this.
Teach me your ways.
You tell them, you say, "I know you would really like to do this," and I know there's another person in this room that said the same thing recently, "but let me tell you why that's not going to work." And then we don't get a response.
And that's
At
it.
all.
Yeah.
conflict.
I don't know. We're still waiting for the response, and the other person in this room is still waiting for the response.
No
So we're waiting for the other response.
So you really haven't got to know yet. You're just hopeful you get a no. But you know, and it's not because Father Patty's got a cool little Irish accent. It's because we all have a relationship with him. He is not just an officer in our life. He's not just, he is our spiritual father. And there's that connection with him that you all have here. And if you're brand new to this parish, he starts fostering that immediately. That's that relationship. That's that relationship. So don't go looking for people. They're right in front of you. And you've got to bring them into the, Bishop Kinnaman at the parish would always say, if a new family comes, if they don't get angered with 5 families, if they don't have a touch point with 5 families, go to coffee and donuts, invite them over, go to dinner, invite them to a ministry. If you don't have at least 5 people make a connection with that family in the first 6 months, the chances of them going away are very, very big. It's that relationship. The sacraments and the holy sacrifice of the Mass is the source and summit of our faith. But that is such high theology for somebody that's new to the church to have somebody to think that bread and wine is the body and blood of Christ. That's overwhelming to learn that. You've got to have a little trust with somebody to start that relationship to begin with. Okay. We will evangelize people by connecting them to the mission of Jesus so they can know their personal role. Nobody's exempt from that baptism, those calls. Every soul born into the world has a role to play in the plan of God. Those of us who have advanced some in our own roles are obligated to help those come after us. It's not a just, hey, I got a great gift of faith and it's all mine and I can't share it with anybody. We are commanded to do that. Go, therefore, and make disciples. Notice that wasn't a request. Go is a command. It's not an option. It is a command to do it. Invest in people and relationships, and we will gain what we need to continue the work of the church. More engagement, more holy families, more vocations, larger offertory, I'll put that in for Father Patty, to fund the mission. Would you, if you had $100,000 20 years ago, and you have 100% hindsight, would you rather have that $100,000 sitting in an IRA for 20 years or in a savings account for 20 years? IRA. That's the investment part of it. Invest in the people and the fruit will come. Now, when you invest that $100,000 in the IRA, are you going to get that money tomorrow? No. It takes time. It takes a long vision. It takes, you don't plant corn today and eat corn tomorrow. It takes time, it takes cultivation, it takes prayer, it takes discernment, it takes stewarding that relationship. Everything and everybody has to be aligned to the mission. If there's one thing that you leave here today with, everybody and everything has to be aligned to the mission. No silos. We got to be in each other's business. We got to know what's going on, because there can be no secrets. We all know what we're called to do. We're all united in what we're doing. One of the things that I love about the church is we share everything openly and freely. So when I get together with my compadres that are in my job in our region, we are so free in sharing what works in our diocese. In the business world, if you had something that gave you the edge, what do? You hold it tight, you covet it, you put it under lock and key. That's mine, and you can't have it because I'm going to use it against you. The church is the absolute opposite of that. We throw open everything because we want everything to work for everybody. Okay, so you notice how this is now a little bit aligned here. What's another way to put that? So, if you have a wagon and 6 horses pulling, if 5 of them are pulling one direction and one's pulling away, are you going to go as fast as you can? No. We need to move fast because our time is getting short. The people that are committed to the church are not getting younger. My own 2 children, although they believe in Jesus, although I'm sure they have some form of relation to Jesus, are not practicing Catholics. And it kills my soul. I'm responsible for that. And it kills my soul that they're not. And I'm sure every single person in this room has some story like that. We have got to get on this and move it quick, because if this generation goes away without making significant progress, we are going to be a much, much smaller church. Now, the church will never go away, and in times of persecution, great saints arise. You know, all the horrible things that happen with simony. You know, you go to Rome, you go to Europe, you see all those great, big, beautiful churches. They were kind of built with sinful money. Hey, I can get you to heaven, you just got to give me $100, and I'll give you that indulgence. All that money was there. There was great corruption in the church at that time. But out of that time came embers from the fire. St. Francis of Assisi, St. Teresa of Lisieux. Great saints came out, and it always has when the church is persecuted. That's our goal. All right. Oh gosh, this print's little. So I'm going to give you some quotes on change. Who here loves change? I don't know if you've heard this or not, but I'm the guy that's kind of, I'm the face of this new software in the diocese called Gabriel Software. And because Janet's new, she probably doesn't have it, but every single secretary of this diocese has an effigy of me with a noose around my neck in their office. Because it's painful, because it's hard, because it was a huge shift to move the entire diocese to one common platform. That was new, that was different, that people didn't understand. But in the end, it's a great move for the church. I will never get credit for this, nor do I seek credit for this. The person that sits in my chair 20 years from now will chisel a statue to me, because that's how good it's going to be. So everyone thinks of changing the world, and in our case, the church, but no one thinks of changing themselves. You want to change the world, you got to change yourself. To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but to building the new. That's Socrates. That's lasted a few times. One of my favorites, our dilemma, this is perfect for the world in the West today. Our dilemma is that we hate change and love it at the same time. What we really want are for things to remain the same, but to get better. Do you think that's even possible? Of course it's not. And then this one that scares me to death. Change before you have to. That could be applied to so many things in our country, in the world, in our church. The time grows short for us to take action in this. All right, change is... The two ladies that work for me hate me for this phrase. Change is hard in the beginning. It's incredibly messy in the middle. But it's glorious if you see it through to the end. You guys just built a brand new church. I'm sure that was just nothing but fun. Every single meeting, never a disagreement. Everything went according to plan. Nothing was short. Everything came in under budget. If you didn't suffer through that, you wouldn't have that. You'd still be in here. And look at this parish. You're by far not the biggest parish in the diocese. You're by far not the youngest parish in the diocese. But look what you did. Look what you did, because you united behind something and everybody pitched in and did what needed to be done. It was hard in the beginning. David will probably tell you right now, very messy in the middle. But it's glorious in the end. If you don't think it's glorious, go spend some time with Jesus right after this and see the glory that you brought to the name of God. All right, so lest you think this is all fun and games, what obstacles to shift to mission advance look like, and what do they look like in a real parish setting? Janet, I'm going to tell you right now, this isn't just a general thing. Don't take it personal. Brunhilde has been the parish secretary for decades. She runs the show. She will never let this happen. In the Catholic Church in the year 2022, who's the most powerful person in the parish? Parish secretary, that's exactly right. Does it bother me if the pastor doesn't like me? I got to have the parish secretary like me, or I can't even get to the pastor for him not to like me. There's an incredible amount of pressure on pastors and parish teams in the church today. Remember we talked about the gifts that call a man to the priesthood are diametrically opposed to the gifts it takes to run a business. That's what our priests and our parish staffs face every single day. They are called to minister and nurture to the flock, but yet we ask them in the church of the modern day to run a business. You have to pay a salary, payroll taxes, you have to do financial reporting, you have to do an awful lot of business. And the people that come to the church, guess what? They're just good people that want to help. They just want to help. Let me tell you exactly how my career in the church started. I would go to Mass, I would support the church, I would go to a fish fry, leave me alone the other 6 days, I've done my part. But this priest that I told you, I knew very well. I'd complain to him about the church. Why does the church do this? Why does the church do this? They're morons, what are they doing? They'll never get it done. And then one day he says, why don't you quit He didn't say complaining. Why don't you quit complaining and do something about it? So I was convicted by a friend and a priest. Showed up at the Corpus Christi Cathedral that next Monday, knocked on the door. Hi, my name's Dave Byron. I'm here to help. What do you want? And I did anything. I polished candlesticks. Then I got promoted to entering in offertory for parishioners on Monday mornings. And I got to help with the major ceremonies. Then I got to work for the diocese. Then I got to work for a parish. Then I got to work for a future bishop. Then I get to work for a bishop. And here I am now. Absolutely no training. Absolutely have never raised $1 in my life until Bishop came and asked me to come here. But here I am. I will be the first to tell you, I am not equipped to do this job. That did not stop God from calling me to do the job. And He has helped me every single part. When I first got here, I've never been shy, but getting in front of a group of people, not my forte. I love it. Now I can't say it. You will literally have to tell me to stop talking at some point today.
That model is not what we have here.
I know.
That's
And it's
VP. VP, that was it.
This-
But now, after Patty, it's a
He is. And it's so unfair because this is a generic presentation I give to the entire diocese. And it's so unfair to come here and do this because you guys are ahead of the game here. And guess what? That's why I'm here. Because you're ahead of the game. Nobody is getting this level of talk in the diocese because a lot of them can't handle it. They're not ready to hear this stuff. It'll scare them. But you're exactly right. And if you don't think you're ahead of the game, if you don't think you're not fortunate, not just for your pastor, but for your fellow parishioners, for the community you have here, you're nuts. I'll bring you to a parish or two and you will hurry back here.
But your point is valid. Not only we could be ahead of the game, but then even our own statistics say that people are coming back to
Right.
church. And,
Right? You have momentum, don't lose it.
yeah.
You have momentum, don't lose it. That's a good way to put it. We're an old parish with old parishioners. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Well, look at us.
Now, I'm not about to call you old, but you are a seasoned parish. You are a wisdom-filled parish. And you're one of the parishes that's leading the pack. It's you debunk it. And I use that example in other parishes. You debunk this myth. When I go to talk to people about digital revenue, and believe it or not, when COVID hit and we couldn't come to Mass, I was having a tough time convincing pastors, hey, you need to have online giving so people can give to your parish. They can't come to you. It's an inconvenience. We're in the world of convenience. If it's not easy, they're not going to do it. And I got so many arguments. I don't want to do that. Or I don't want the company taking 3% of my $100 gift. Father, parish secretary, you can have $97.50 of someone's generosity, or you can have zero. What do you want? I'm not asking you to force people into it. I'm saying give them the option of having it. This, again, you have great momentum here. Don't lose that. Don't lose that. Oh, here's my good one. Oh no, Father's within 30 years of retirement. He's not about to start something new now. Y'all laugh like I make this up, like this isn't real. Like I haven't heard this somewhere. The whole point of this exercise is we are naturally resistant to change. We don't want it. Here's another one. The bishop is only 5 years from retirement. We'll outwait him. There will be some that do that. Those parishes are already bleeding parishioners to parishes like this. There are parishes near you that you are bleeding parishioners from because of what you're doing. And I can look at the offertory, I can look at the attendance. They're not leaving the church, they're leaving that parish because they're not being fed. The current state of the church requires a sobering examination of the church as it currently exists at all levels. Notice how I underlined and italicized sobering examination. All current offices, positions, and ministries should be examined and recategorized as either mission critical or mission support. Meaning that mission critical means that for us to fulfill our mission, we cannot do without it. It must be a part of what we do. Mission support, probably something like payroll. If you want your staff to stay around, you got to pay them. If you want, you've got to have, there's some things that are in the temporal part of the church that you just have to have. The vast majority of offices should be mission critical, with only a small portion being mission support. 90% mission critical, 10% mission support. And I'm going to show you how that works out right here. And this is
Where did you get that number?
What's that?
Where did you get that ratio, 9 to 10?
That's just kind of the overvailing philosophy of how important the mission critical is. And the reason is, and it goes back to our shrinking resources, mainly people, financial resources, hours and time. Everything has got to be put toward the mission. You know, picture a battleship in battle. If I'm under attack, do I care how the cook's doing at lunch? No, it's all hands on deck. Everything needs to be geared toward the mission at that moment. So here's the tough one. Here's the pill to swallow. The question to ask is this: if this office, position, or ministry is not mission critical, contributing greatly to the overall mission, why do we allow it to continue to exist and take a valuable and increasingly limited resource? It's called a trim the fat exercise. Now, does that mean if you have a ministry at the parish right now that is not mission critical, can it be turned into mission critical? Absolutely. A reorientation is absolutely possible. But if you have something that's existed forever and ever and ever, and it does not produce fruit, you got to cut it down. It's got to go away.
Or if you have a mission critical and it's being run less than optimal.
That is a conversation that is ongoing at the diocesan offices as we speak. One of the things that Bishop Kinnaman is very good at is he doesn't like to ask people to do something he's not willing to do himself. So all of the stuff we're talking about with parishes, the leadership team of the diocese is already looking at that. And we're already looking at reorienting how the diocesan offices are there. The diocese is like any other bureaucratic organization. Over time, it gets fat, it gets lazy, and it has to be re-examined. Same thing with the diocese. The diocese has two forms of income, main sources of income. One is the cathedraticum, that's a big fancy word for a bishop's tax that he levies on all parishes. So all parishes pay the bishop a 9% tax of their offertory. So for every $100 this parish brings in, $9 goes to the diocesan for its budget. That accounts for 50%, roughly 50% of the diocesan budget. The other half of that is the Catholic Sharing Appeal. So, and the Catholic Sharing Appeal is, you all have heard of it, it is the bishop's appeal directly to the parishioners of this diocese to fund the missions that the bishop has. 100% of that money stays in the Diocese of Biloxi and it goes directly into ministry. The only administrative costs that are attached to that are what it costs my office to produce it every single year. That's the printed material you get mailed at. That's the website that you can go to and give. We run a very, very lean ship in that because the money needs to be in the ministries. That's the important part of it. And every year, we have a committee that scrubs each and every budget at the diocese and makes the director of that office defend what their expenditures are. We have to account for what we're doing. So, yes, can it be reoriented? Yes. Can a ministry that's mission critical be made more efficient? Yes. Does that happen by just hope? What has to happen there? You have to have a conversation. You have to have a conversation, and this is where the church gets weak-kneed. The church historically does not like to have honest conversations with good people because we're afraid it's going to hurt their feelings, and we don't want that. There's a way to do that. and not hurt feelings horribly bad. You cannot let a ship sink because you can't have an honest conversation to the helmsman of how to steer the ship. You can't let things happen in the day and age we are now without having the conversation, at least the opportunity to change. And I will be the first to admit, that's the difficult part of this, but it's an absolute must if you're going to change things around. You want to do it with love. You want to do it with care for the people that you're talking with. But you also have to look at the larger picture. It is the toughest part of this, but it is the most critical part of it also. Any questions on this? All right, unless you think it's all doom and gloom, there are some benefits of this. Once everything is aligned, one message. We have a clear, concise vision known by all parish leadership. The senior leadership team at the diocese has been working together for 4 years. We had a Come to Jesus meeting about 2 months ago. We took a little day off. We went to a parish. We were on a thing. And God was in that meeting because we accomplished nothing on the agenda. And we had an honest conversation about this, to the point of is we could not even agree what the name of our team was. We worked together for 4 years, and we could not agree. Well, I thought we were called this. Well, I thought we were called this. And that's when the bishop said, stop. We're gonna reevaluate what we're doing here, because there's a lot of smart people in that room, me not being one of them. A lot of smart people in that room that bring a lot of potential for change that we're just being misguided and underutilized. A path to forming disciples with leaders equipped to mentor. Remember those conversations we're talking about? If you've run a business before, the first time you let somebody go, that's tough. And a lot of people like to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I worked in the restaurant business. I've literally fired hundreds of people over 20 years. It's not pleasant. It's what needs to be done in business. You set them down, you stick the knife in, you pull the knife out, the conversation's over. It's not time for debate. It's not time to defend. It's over. Leaders are well-formed and empowered and sent. In case this is a big surprise, is there a reason you're here today? You are those leaders in this parish that Father Patty wants to empower. He wants to have you trained up and confident. You know, if you don't know a subject matter, do you know how hard it is to get up in front of people and talk about it? It's impossible. People see through it in a minute. But if you know what you're talking about, if you're passionate about what you're talking about, the words almost don't matter. It's that culture, that feeling that brings them out here. And the best thing is that everything we do is aligned to the mission of forming disciples of Christ, bringing the message of the gospel to people and inviting them into a relationship with Jesus. Is anybody here in a quad? Almost a loaded question. Almost a loaded question. So is anybody, can somebody just tell me what the very first quad meeting you sat in was like? Was it awkward? Awkward, yeah, awkward. Scared to share? I don't know this person very well. I'm not going to tell them all my bad stuff, or I'm not going to share too much. Was your first quad meeting very different from your last quad meeting? Has anybody gone through the whole year?
Yes.
How different was the last one from the first one?
You cried.
You cried like a family. How weird. How weird. What was the basis of that change?
Trust in what
It's trusting in God, and you developed a what with the other three people? Oh my gosh, it's that easy. And how did you develop that relationship?
Shared experience.
You shared experience, and you spent what with them? Oh my, time! You spent time with someone, and in doing that, you got to know them, and in getting to know them, you got to trust them, and getting to trust them, you shared with them? How ridiculous. That Jesus guy knew what he was talking about. That's what we want to do. That's it. Is there a little fear in there? I told you, you watched The Chosen, right? That show has absolutely changed my whole. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say that's the way I feel also about our leadership team.
Yep.
That's working in this parish. When we come together, we share and we talk out things, and
it is, you come together as a family first and a team second.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how there was what did I hear? In developing a well-organized leadership team, you go from strangers to team to family. And that's exactly what the quad has done here. That's exactly what the quads are doing everywhere. It's breaking down so many walls between people. And really, it's all relationship-based. It's just how much closer you are to the 3 people in your quad now than you were a year ago. I mean, they are friends. They're family, and that's all it is. Yes, ma'am.
You started to tell us about what you got out of The Chosen and how it affected you.
So for those of you, you don't know me this, but I'm an arch conservative when it comes to Catholic, like Latin Mass, ad orientem, on your knees worship kind of a guy. I like music from the 70s. And I mean the 1670s, not the 1970s. I'm a huge critic of liturgy. And so when I started watching The Chosen, they take a very humanistic approach to Jesus' full humanity. And at first I was like, ugh, can I do this? It really opened my eyes up to think, he is God. But he is man. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's a part where they're seeking shelter. They go into a town, and they come to this man's house, and it's Jesus and a couple of his disciples, and the guy goes, well, I don't have much room. I have one spare room, and it's hard. And Jesus goes, I'll take that one. It was like, oh, humor is his gift. Humor is his gift. So this is our goal. Here's that funny word in business. It is wonderful. In the church, we wince at this word. Pass accountability, an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility for one's actions or one's inactions. That is huge. I work for the church, so I speak with a tad bit of knowledge. The church is scared to death to hold people accountable. We don't want to what?
Upset
They don't want to upset anyone. They don't want to hurt their feelings. Did Jesus worry about people's feelings?
Yes.
No. The truth is the truth, whether it hurts your feelings or not. And the minute we get back to being truthful about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish, the quicker we'll get some results. So the pastor and the leadership team must hold each other accountable. How's that going for you guys? Good? Y'all ready to tell Father Patty he's wrong yet? Do it delicately, but it can be done. Hey, I know the same thing. I sit in the bishop's office for meetings. And there are times, he's very good. He'll ask the opinion. What do you think? I've known him the longest, so I have the longer relationship with him. I'm very comfortable telling Bishop Kinnaman, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea for this reason. There are times he takes that counsel. More often than not, there are times he goes, thank you, Dave, let's do it.
But he considered your thought.
He did consider at the best, at the worst, he made me feel good. Pastor and leadership team hold all ministries and activities accountable. So this is a relatively small group of people up top. Now you're starting to get some people in there. Now you're starting to get volunteers in there. And you've got to have those conversations. When they get outside the parameters, you've got to quickly have that conversation. It's not what we're doing. You got to do this, you got to do this. Don't be afraid to let people be them and do their things. The best leaders in the church that I've ever known, places like this, you have a leader that knows his vision and communicates it well, surrounds himself with other great leaders, gives them direction, parameters, holds them accountable, and sets them free to do their thing. Checking in periodically to make sure that they are on task. The church is famous for not doing that. The church is famous for, let me get the easy person. You know what? We need a new bookkeeper. Our bookkeeper is retiring. We need a new bookkeeper. Oh, let's give that job to Joe. He has been so good to the parish. He is just, he's here for every meeting. He ties to the church. He could really use the work. Awesome. What does Joe do? He's a fireman. If we have a fire, we're calling Joe. If we need a bookkeeper, we need somebody that's good at bookkeeping. You see what I say there? And the church is very, very, and it's out of love. We want to help, but we have to have competent people in competent positions. Everyone is accountable to the mission. Can you be accountable to something you don't know what it is? Of course not. So communication is back to it. Accountability is the key to the ship. Without fair and consistent accountability, we will accomplish very little in this mission. Very, very little. I'm gonna step back to read this because there's a lot. And this is very, very important because we see it. I see it on my own team at the diocese. When a team leader's performance is consistently good, it becomes expected and may become unknowingly taken for granted. I have seen people in leadership positions manipulate high-performing team members to produce more, to take on the burdens of other team members. Yet at the same time, nothing is being done to address the significant shortfalls of other team members. At some point, this person will get burnt out and lose all inspiration to continue to perform at such a high level. According to Tim McClure, when passionate team members become quiet, it's usually a sign that the work environment has become very dysfunctional. As a leader, this is something you must observe and act on immediately. Please don't push your most loyal people to a point where they no longer care. When you have people passionate, inspired, and motivated to help the church achieve its vision while fulfilling its purpose, you must do everything in your power to keep this team vibrant. Otherwise, you run the risk of pushing away great talent while settling for mediocrity. Mediocrity. Socrates. Mediocrity. It's good. It's good. This is something that happens in every single organization. You have a group of people come together for a cause, and if they're paid for it, it takes on a different feel to it than if they're volunteers. But in a compensated position, in a compensated team, to let people that always do good work do more good work and not let the balance fall, not hold people accountable, you will destroy your team. Everybody has a wagon to pull, and they all have to pull as hard as they can in this. And that's especially for the leadership teams. You have to be at a point where you can have honest conversations with each other behind closed doors and still leave after that and be friends and family after. And that takes a great degree of work. It takes a great degree of understanding and knowing the other person. I tell, in the meetings I sit in at the diocese, I tell people, if this group of 6 people cannot come together once in a while and get red-faced, with our voices elevated, maybe a little spittle running out of our mouth when we get passionate, if we can't have those kind of conversations behind closed doors and then leave and still be friends and family, we are not at the level of team we need to be. You have got to be able to have honest and passionate discourse. You have got to be able to disagree so that the greatest solution rises to the top. And then when the leader says, this is what we're doing, everybody's in line and we go back again. That's very tough to do in the regular world. It's almost a monumental task in the church world because we are the church of nice. We like to be nice. And I'm not saying we don't want to be nice. We want to be nice. We want to be charitable. We want to be loving. But we don't want to overdose on mercy. Mercy is one virtue, and the church likes to overdose on it. So, mission advancement. This is kind of how everything needs to be. Everything is clued into mission advancement. Everything comes up in through the lens of mission advancement. Everything we do is for mission advancement. Now, if you have a really, really well, high-functioning team, you can put it in a linear way that says everything that we do in the parish, in the church, goes through mission advancement. One message, one vision. And that's what we do. Could it be the end? Not yet.
What's the thing that said it?
Where's this?
At the bottom.
Oh, IT.
Information technology.
Information technology, computers, things like that, your Wi-Fi, this stuff right here. You had to say that, didn't you? Because I asked the very same thing when they put this slide together. I said, "What's it?"
Okay, we're mature.
No, I'm saying I did the same thing. You notice I got here 30 minutes early to make sure all this stuff worked. Thank God Kurt was here because he made it all good. So the desired outcomes of aligning everything, a true leadership team that emerges through prayer, discernment, and mentoring. Lest we leave God out of this, prayer is the first thing we go to in this. God, what is your will? Every day I ask God for two things. I want the wisdom to know his will, and then the tough one. Give me the fortitude to do your will. Because in the world today, it is very, very hard to be a Catholic. It is very hard to live your faith. It is very hard to be a follower of Christ. The team is 100% committed to the mission. The 10% of parishioners that do and support everything will get the help they desperately need. Does anybody know what part of the 10% you are? You are the 10%. You're here on a Saturday morning listening to this guy from the diocese. This number is charitable. 10% is charitable. That's approaching the 5% mark across the church. 5% of the parishioners are engaged in the parish, are supporting the parish, are volunteering in the parish, are leading the ministries. Long established roles, positions, ministries that are no longer relevant to the mission are retired. I had a different word there. Bishop Kinnaman said it would come across as rough, so he asked me to put in retired. Retired. The parish grows in discipleship and its members live authentic Catholic lives rooted in the Lord Jesus. There we are. What questions do you have?
What's the first thing? Go ahead.
Was that a stretch, sir, or a question?
Actually, I have a lot of questions.
Go right ahead. I'm paid by the hour. Let's stretch this out.
I wish I was paid by the hour. Believe it or not. But where is the actual guidance of discipleship going? I mean, the slideshow's good, but the actual direction we're going is kind of vague.
I think what our bishop in particular, and I think most of the bishops that have picked up on this, they see this trend of people leaving the church. Mm-hmm. And Bishop Kinnaman wants to reverse that trend to getting back to kind of the roots of the missionary church. And that is our ability, not just for Father Patty, for Bishop Kinnaman to be the face of the church, but for the members to be the face of the church. And we're talking about reversing this trend of leave. It's not just, okay, one day we stop losing and we start, we've got to level off at some point. We've got to find a rock bottom here at some point. And it's his belief that the authority that is given to him as a bishop is leveraged through his pastors, and then that authority is leveraged through the parishioners. We come in contact with more people that need to see and hear the message of Jesus than bishops and priests ever will. It's in our own families. It's in our workplace. It's in the town square. We're there. The priests and the bishops are not always there. Their numbers are going down and their workload is going up. They have got to leverage this out. So the overall goal is I shouldn't say a different, it's a much more primary approach to bringing the gospel to people than the church has seen in the last few centuries. You know, we talk about the church as being these big, beautiful edifices that people just go in and gawk at. But there are throne rooms awaiting the return of their king. That's exactly what that building over there is. That is a throne room awaiting the return of her king. And I think the bishop, and I'll tell you for sure, our bishop wants more people to experience Jesus, wants people to come to know Jesus. And there's just not enough priests and bishops in the world to make it happen. So it's a call to action for the laity to, number one, embrace your faith, go deeper into your faith so that you're comfortable, so that you know it more, and you're more comfortable in sharing it with others. The quads are a perfect example of that. And you notice the quads don't have, I may be wrong, but you don't have strangers off the street sitting in your quad, right? These are all people that go to the parish. So we have come so far from our missionary roots that even as a well-established parish, we're having to break down walls between members to get down to that basic form of relationship that Jesus calls us to.
Going back with the phrase, go out and make disciples, I feel that the church would be limited in just making disciples out of people we already know. Is there a goal for going more outward?
Yes.
And is there a plan?
Yes, there is. You're talking NFL level playing, we're sitting at JV right now.
Oh, I understand that, but
When it comes to that.
if you don't see where the end goal might be, or
Right.
don't know,
Right.
you have, and more steps keep getting added and added and added.
Right.
It can feel wearing if people don't understand
What the end goal is. Well, the overall end goal is the salvation of all souls. That's the big one.
Yes, I agree.
But that is to somebody that's just wanting to know about Jesus, that somebody that's just, anybody know what the number one, after the Catholic Church, anybody know what the number one denomination after the Catholic Church is? The biggest? Baptists? Muslims? Buddhists? In the United States, the biggest group of Christians outside of practicing Catholics, fallen away Catholics. There are more people that were baptized into the church and left the church than there are baptized into any other faith. That's how bad the hemorrhaging has been over the last 50 or 100 years. So what Bishop Timon we will not live to see the end of what this is, because it's never ending, it's ongoing, every age, every generation. The low-hanging fruit is those people that already have some affinity toward the church, some affinity to Christ. We already have the first question I asked was, do we have any family members that have fallen away? These are people we already have some type of relationship with. If everybody that was a registered parishioner at this parish brought one family member back to the church, what would that? One! Not a whole family. One. What would that do? Now multiply that by all the 51 parishes. If every registered member of the diocese brought one back to the church to practice their faith, that's what he's looking at. That's kind of, we've got to get a foothold in the fight is where we are right now. Does that in some way answer your question?
Yeah, I understand the baby steps. It's just been my experience in some management roles and also in the working world. If the whole crew doesn't understand what the path is to be looking like,
Right?
they get lost in the way.
Brother, you are preaching to the choir with that, because that clarified your question to me perfectly. So, for the last 4 years, Bishop Kinnaman is talking about intentional discipleship, and this whole thing we just talked about today. Guess how many pastors are 100% on board with the baby steps we've taken so far?
10%.
5.
Not even 10%. This is one of those pastors. Not even 10% of the pastors are. Now, there's 20% of the pastors that are sitting back and looking. What are they doing over there? Is that going to be good for my parish? I'll do it if it bears fruit, but I'm not going to wade into that until I know what I'm getting into. Typical human nature. It's new, it's changed. I don't want to invest too much money. I'm already tired and overworked. About 6% of the parishes have pastors that are fully engaged in what the bishop wants to do. Now, that doesn't sound great, right? But guess what the good news is? Those 6 pastors are doing some great work. Those 6 pastors have things like you're doing here, the quads. The quads are explosive because it roots you in a relationship that's never going to go away. And it geometrically progresses year after year after year. That's the beauty of it. And that's in our own house. That's in our own house. That's not even going outside. At some point, the people that are I'll be the first to tell you, when Bishop Kennedy says, we're going to introduce intentional discipleship, I said, stop. If you say those 2 words to the average Catholic, they're going to think you want to go up to the door of somebody and go, can we talk to you about Jesus? I said,
We have that.
I said, you're going to scare people to death with that. You're going to spend a lot of time talking about that. I mean, it sounds like I need to invest in bicycles, white shirts, and helmets, like we're going to be the Mormons going around to people. And so it is. It's baby steps, but it's to stop this trend. It's to get a foothold in this fight where we can actually start the fight. And it starts right here in our own house, in our own families. Yes, ma'am.
I can tell y'all, most of y'all know me. I can tell you. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with kids, with the parents of kids, sitting there saying, I want to come here. There's not one day, whether I'm in the hospital or here, that I don't get a phone call from somebody sitting over there. How can I get my kids into CTD? How can I get them into RCIA? How can I get them to start coming? Because that's not in my church.
People will go where they are fed.
People will go where they know Jesus is at.
People will go where they're fed. That's exactly correct. That's exactly.
You know a couple that's here because they went to another church for 5 years. And the pastor didn't know who they were.
Yep.
One day here,
I'm telling you, Father Patty.
they're known.
Father Patty is I don't know if it's Ireland. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about that. But he is a jewel, and it's when I talk to Father, and I sit in the presence of Bishop Kinnaman on a regular basis. When I talk to Father Patty, it's like I'm the only person in the world. That's it. It's me and him, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's in person. I'm the most important thing in that man's life when we're having a conversation. And that is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Oh gosh. My first week here, he says, hi Dave. He always does this. Hello Dave. Welcome to the diocese. I need to raise $4 million. Father, I'm trying to figure out how to get from my house to my office without getting lost. Give me a minute.
But you're talking about going to, we're doing door to door today.
Yeah, and why do you do that?
Next Sunday.
Because you're comfortable and knowledgeable in what you are. You're passionate about what you're doing. The average Catholic can't do that. The average Catholic doesn't know their faith that well enough. The church has done a horrendously horrible job of teaching the faith over the last 60 years.
Which is where the quads step in.
Imagine.
They not only, it reminds us of what we knew at one point, but also teaches us what we
I joined
never
Knights Columbus when I came down. Well, I transferred to Knights Columbus when I first came down here. And it was election time, and I had been there for a month or two. everybody knew I worked with, everybody's nice to me, and I never know, is it me or is it because I know I work with the bishop? So I'm there, and I miss election night. I come back, and I go to sit in my regular seat the next week, and they go, Dave, no, you sit up front. You were elected to a position. I said, I wasn't even here. I said, I can't pronounce all these Biloxi names. I don't know what we're doing here. So I go sit up front, and it was a position called the lecturer. And I said, I don't even know what that is. And the guy goes, just teach us and entertain us. Oh, great. Now I'm the circus monkey at a meeting. So I said, all right, you got me here. You did this to me. Now we're gonna do it. So the very first time I showed up with all the vestments that a priest and a bishop would wear at a Knights of Columbus meeting, which in Biloxi, they have a 30-minute meeting so they can get to the bar in the Boo-Ray gate. Just so you know, that's the operation. So extending the meeting 10 minutes was sacrilege. But I did, and I went through and I said, this is a cassock. A Roman cassock has 33 buttons down the front of it. Does anybody know why there's 33 buttons down the front of a Roman cassock? One for each year of the life of Christ on earth. The cassock also has 5 buttons on the sleeve. Anybody know what that represents? The 5 wounds of Christ. The cassock is black to represent the sin of the world. That little white collar is God's grace. Notice it only takes a little grace to get rid of all the black. Basic Catholic stuff that any 7th grader in the world should know if they went to a Catholic school. I had grown men lined up afterwards asking me questions about that. It goes back to when you know what you want, when you're educated, when you're knowledgeable about what you're talking about, and you're passionate. Knowledge and passion is a very, very powerful dynamic. If you are knowledgeable about something, you're passionate about something, you can do a lot of good. And so to your point, we're building that fire in getting people up to speed with being comfortable with their faith, by knowing their faith, by being able to share their faith with each other. At some point, we turn that out. One of a Protestant church right down the street from the parish I was at in Corpus Christi, where I worked with Bishop Kinnaman. I went in one time, grabbed some lunch, and I went into their parking lot to eat. And when I was leaving the parking lot, they have 2 signs on either side, and it says, "You are now entering the mission field." And I thought that was so powerful, because we as Catholics come to Mass to be fed spiritually. We come to Mass to hear the Word of God. We come to be fortified with the sacraments, to grow our relationship and to worship. If I have a person say, I don't get anything out of Mass, I'm going to punch him the next time, because we do not go to Mass to get. We go to Mass to offer worship to Almighty God. It is a giving scenario. It is not, you don't go there to get first. You go there to give. And so many people in the world today, you got to be entertained. You got to be drunk nuts. But there's fruit that you're having in this parish. And there's fruit in this area, this community around here. Holy Family's doing the same thing you guys are. It is rocking and rolling over there too. Because you have 2 pastors that embrace the mission. They're knowledgeable and they're passionate. Those 2 priests love their people. Father Austin's a little rougher than Father Patty sometimes, but they're both good men. They do great work. What else do you have? Yes, sir?
I think most people know me. Can you hear me back there?
Yes.
Good. Your discussion is great. I wish I had taken notes. Tina brought up something, and that's what I'd like to bring up in depth now. As I look around, with few exceptions, we are dinosaurs. We're arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The target market, you know what it is? Youth. We have abandoned youth. Our Catholic schools. How many went to a Catholic school? Look, and that's why we're here.
Yep.
But once we started abandoning, for whatever reason, we lost the target market, and I'll call them the great left or whatever, came in and brainwashed these kids. And trying to get youth back to church is near impossible.
It is.
My message, if you can carry it back, what do we have to do to get the Catholic schools back on track? Thank you.
Funny you bring that up. Funny you bring that up. You know, at Mass, we pray for the bishop at every single Mass. You know, his name is mentioned by name. Our Holy Father Francis and our Bishop Louis. And the reason for that is they need that prayer because no one, and I mean no one, ever calls the chantry with good news. Ever. So Bishop Kinnaman sits in the seat of authority where he hears all of this. He's at graduations. He has people, he has the kids, for them to be confirmed, has to write him a letter. They write a letter and they say, he asks them, why do you want to be confirmed? What does confirmation mean to you? He too is alarmed by the answers that he gets. He goes to graduations. And I remember he was at a graduation last year that I was at. And the valedictorian gave a speech at a Catholic high school, did not mention God once. At a Catholic high school. Now, lest you say it's the Diocese of Biloxi Catholic Schools, it is worldwide. And I think it is, well, we have a wisdom-filled group. Who was the first person in your life to mention Jesus to you? Oh, yes it was, as well it should be. Guess who most of the kids are hearing Jesus from now? Teachers in kindergarten. The breakdown of the family, as Pope John Paul II said, as goes the family, so goes the world. The breakdown of the family is a great, great devastation to society. It's the breakdown of vocations. It's the breakdown of good marriages. It's the breakdown of children and family and being in school and being in the church and in the faith. And I'm certainly no expert on that. I observe it as a layperson like everybody in this room. But we have a lot of people, the way I looked at it was when the church stopped teaching the faith. I grew up on the Baltimore Catechism. Has anybody heard of that book before? Here's a test. What was it? To know, love, and to serve God. What is our duty to God? To know, to love, and to serve God. You can enjoy His company in the next. See that? That's a very, very basic thing that kind of stuck.
You gave us statistics from 1965 to 2013, and you talked about our parish being a culture. Well, we're countercultural these days. I mean,
oh yeah, the church as a whole is.
Yeah, so I mean, there's totally different culture out there.
There is. There is, and it goes back to what I was talking about. So to addressing the for good or for evil in the world. Let's take Germany. 60 years ago. Where was Hitler's emphasis to change society?
Youth.
In the youth. The brown shirts, teach them, indoctrinate them. That method works for good or for bad. And if you don't think that's the thing, look at our own country today. Look at what the kids are saying. On the issue of abortion, there was a younger, she had to be in high school. She was standing in front of the Supreme Court and she said, I wish my mother would have aborted me. What? Who can fathom a thought like that in a kid that young? If we do not teach the kids the saving message of Jesus, the world will lead them to the depths of hell. And
my biggest fear today.
So,
excellent. We should pray for you advance too, by the way.
I wasn't sure I wanted to admit that.
She said she's a youth minister.
It is the breakdown of the family because I talk to parents, I talk to kids, I talk to grandparents. I say, we've got CWL, come do this. If you just want to come for the fun stuff, that's fine. Well, we have dance, we have football, we have our family vacation, so we won't be back in time.
Right.
There's no, and I was raised, church came first, and then you did other stuff.
Let me ask this question. I volunteered to work with Life Team at my parish in Corpus Christi. The single toughest job I've ever done in the church. And quite frustrated because you would work with these kids who were very smart kids. You would work with them and you would get a spark, and then you would get a flame, and then you'd get a little fire, and you'd send them home to mom and dad, and next week you'd start all over again with nothing. Because mom and dad have them for 7 days a week, and you've got them for 2 hours a week. And if you're doing all you can with the youth and sending them home, and the faith is not being practiced, the faith is not being taught, it is just a vicious cycle. So I'm going to ask Bishop Kennedy if we can start praying for youth ministers by name at Mass too, because that's a difficult thing. And God bless you for doing it, and keep doing it, because good comes out of that. And another thing is, the work that you do, you may not see for years. And we, we're humans. We like to see satisfaction. I did the work. Where's my result? And that doesn't work in faith. It doesn't work in faith at all.
See, just to comment again, listening to you very carefully, you use the symbolism of growing corn. And that's what we're trying to do. Plant the seeds, the kids.
Right.
Get them. Tina's doing great work, but she can't do everything. With schools, again, I don't know if that's in the future. I'm too old, I won't be around. But get those seeds started now.
It is. There's talk and action taking within the school system. It's not just the faith now. Now you have to. The church has to take a position on if someone is a man or a woman, transgenderism, LGBTQ. All of this stuff is an assault on the kids that just didn't exist. I mean, it's like, let's invent new ways to be sinful every single week that we do this stuff.
And are the Catholic schools required by the federal government to not?
No, as far as I know, and I'm no expert on that, we do not have to participate in that. Now, there's instances that creep up that have to be dealt with on an individual basis with that. And most time where there's an issue with that, you would think the parents would want to be aligned with what the church teaches. Guess what? That does not always happen. You're at odds with an entire family over something. And that's where I think the church, it's just so easier if the church just says, this is what the church teaches. I think it was St. Teresa, I'm not here to convince, I'm just here to inform. That free will is a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah, Chris.
That answers your question about our leadership team. Last week, we've been meeting for months. We spent the entire meeting around the Catholic school system and what's missing and what do we need to understand. Back to your point about understanding what's out there, what people are doing. And it is something I think that is getting to the youth. And the week before that, it was all around CYO and RCIA and younger. So I think the mission of the diocese, at least through the leadership team, is to say, we want to make sure all of us wisdom people go to heaven, because we got a short run with these. But we got to bring the youth along.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there's things, Bishop Kinnaman is doing his best to bring, and the name escapes you, but it's a collegiate level organization that walks in, they go through very, very formal training. They're exactly what you're wanting. They're young people that are on fire for the faith, that know their faith, are willing to share their faith. He's got 2 or 3 of those people that are at USM right now, and it's his goal to start planting those, what's the name of that group?
He talked about it at the beginning of the Ananias workshop.
Yeah, it's not Spirit Movers, it's
Focus.
That's it, Focus. The focus groups are, he's working, so he has sway in the Catholic school system here. One of the things that they're introducing, and they're going to start training on now, is Theology of the Body, which is, I think the training starts in early June. June's when it is. And that comes from John Paul II. Pope St. John Paul II thought that. And it's I've been told, I am ignorant of it, I've never been through it, but I'm told it's not just a sex ed class. It's the dignity of the human person presented in how we are perceived in God's eyes. And it addresses our normal stuff.
If anyone wants them.
What are they?
They're the litany of chastity, prom,
Oh, very
I carry
good.
them with me.
Perfect.
So I leave them.
Chastity and modesty, two virtues pretty much out the window in the modern world. When I go to confirmations, I'm so old school. I just want to carry a cape to cover up some people. You're in church and there's the bishop and there's Jesus. Can we just cover it up a little? And it's cycle. We'll come out of this, but it'll take the work that we're talking about. We've got to teach the importance of modesty, the importance of integrity. We have to teach the importance of the virtues. I don't think the vast majority of kids today know what the virtues are, the cardinal virtues. They just don't know that. How can you hold someone accountable to something they've never heard of and they don't know what to practice? And I have a really slow burn with Holy Mother Church for not teaching that faith. You know, in a Catholic school, I think you should, when you graduate, you should be pretty much an expert in the basics of the Catholic faith. I don't care if you practice it; that's your decision. But test on it. Like I don't particularly believe algebra is my deal. I sure got tested on it to see if I could graduate. You know, philosophy is not my big deal, but I had a class on it. I had to get tested on it to know if I knew what it meant. Yeah, the work. What is the phrase? The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Yes, sir.
Not to take the focus away from the youth, because the youth is a really big deal. But so much of the focus in a lot of different churches, not just the Catholic Church, is addressing only the youth.
Right.
And we're ending up with the parents being left out.
Right.
And the parents need to be addressed.
Yes.
The parents need to be trained. Because you're dealing with young parents, older parents, whatever, who don't know how to raise their kids in a Christian capacity.
Right.
And
they weren't told,
Right, you get them for 2 weeks, then they go home. But when they go home, you need to get the kids for 2 hours, and then you need to also get the parents in for the same amount of time and train the parents. Because my wife works at Hancock High School, and she's got her students sitting in the classroom going, why do we need to respect you?
Right.
Why do I ever have to do my work? They're sitting there yelling at her, cursing her out in the classroom when she goes, you need to just sit here and do your seat work. And they're going, why? Because you can't punish me. And then she writes them up, and the school goes, well, we can't discipline anymore.
Right.
And then they go home, and the parents go, well, you don't have to do your work because my baby's an angel.
Right.
And you're lying that they're cursing you out in the classroom.
Oh my
so
gosh.
we've got to not lose focus on the holistic picture by only focusing on the oldest group and the youngest group. We've got to fill that middle, because I'm coming from a Protestant background that came to the church, that even there, I was, I turned 18, 19, 20 in the Protestant church, and even then, they have nothing for young adults. They have all the adult church, Sunday school for everybody who's like 30 and 40 and 50. And then they've got the youth groups that they're the youngest age, and then the youth groups that go, tween age years.
Right.
Then you hit 18, they're like, yeah, whatever.
We're gone.
And then you hit like 35, and they're like, oh, we care again.
Right.
And so you end up with all these parents that get lost that are going, we need to learn again because our parents didn't teach us how to teach things.
So I agree 100% with you, because if we solve that problem, we solve the problem you ministers are admitting. We're going home to a coal fire. And if you want to look at it in terms of a pastor at a parish or a bishop of a diocese, did you know that Father Patty is responsible for all the souls in his geographical parish, regardless of their affiliation with the church or even if they know Jesus? He is charged with pastoring all souls, not just the ones that identify Catholic. So is the bishop. The bishop is in charge of all the souls in the geographical diocese of Biloxi. He is called to minister to all of them. And so we may see the youth have got to be addressed. We have got to get the youth involved. We've got to make them feel welcome. We've got to get the parents involved in that. The bishop sees all of that and so much more that we need to do. And so we go back to your question. Where do we start? We start in our own home, getting comfortable sharing our faith with one another, our story with one another so that we can turn it on the outside. Yes, ma'am?
And in light of what Kurt disclosed to you, our leadership team has been talking about this problem exactly as you're describing it. And the thing is I know these people today, I mean, we all know the work that is being done by the heads of the ministries, and we wanted them to come and we wanted you to come and hear this, because we're sitting up here as the leadership team, and we feel like we need to be interfacing with the heads of the ministries in some way. We actually talked about the fact that we need to be inviting the heads of the ministry to our leadership meetings so that we're communicating with one another, which is not completely happening yet. Tina, we've talked about the youth, and we've talked about the problem of interfacing with the parents. And that's what we want to do with you. I don't know Tina that well, okay? I'm sitting on the leadership team. I have opinions about what's happening, but I don't know everything that's happening yet.
It's almost like we rehearsed this. You guys are so good, because it goes back to, and you're seeing you know how easy it is to go through an experience, and 20 years further on you look back and you go, okay, remember there was a big storm here in 2005? So you look back from a point of progress 15 years, 20 years later, and you look back on that. What you just described, you are seeing where you are right now, which is the hardest thing in the world to do. You identify that we're headed somewhere. We're not completely connected yet, but the fact that you identified that and want to work on that, you're leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. The fact that you're on a Saturday approaching 2 hours, it's that care that you have for the parish. It's that care you have for what we're doing here that makes the difference. And you just self-realized, gosh, Friday, I may just have to move here, it's so good.
Okay, would you please put the mission slide up again?
Let's see, which one? Oh, the very first one?
The one that says what the mission is. Like, we need to keep referring back to that.
There we go. Is that the one you want?
The mission. What is it? What the mission?
That's our mission.
This is it.
That's it.
Go therefore and make disciples. So, first and foremost, whatever we do in this parish has to be predicated on this is what we're doing. Whatever we do, if it's not pointing to this, we are off track. We are not. If you're in a foxhole, you're being overrun, and you have a limited number of bullets, are you going to shoot at the stuff way, way far away? No. You're going to shoot at the people that's the most threat to you. And right now, the biggest threat to us is leaving people from the inside, leaving people that are firmly rooted in the parish. We don't want them to go anywhere. People that are here occasionally, we want to bring those in and build those relationships. Family members are those that are attached to the church. That's our next line of defense we want to go and talk to. And at some point, it starts to turn in our favor. You know, the Romans had slaves. And the slaves, I'll get you, come where I'm coming to you. I'm coming. I tell you, y'all can tell me shut up, I like to talk. The Romans had slaves, right? And somebody had the grand idea of, why don't we make the slaves wear red so that we know who they are? And the emperor said, no, we can't do that. If they all wear red, they'll see how many they are and how few we are, and they will overthrow us. That's what we need to do in reverse. There are plenty of people that feel like we are right now. There are plenty of people that believe in Jesus. There are plenty of people that want to be affiliated in this family of this church. If you underestimate how bad the pressure on people is from the outside world right now, how good the evil one is doing his work right now with attacking the children, attacking the family, causing dissent between families. It's bad. But here we are as the church. We're not going anywhere. God assures us of that because of this line right here. He's here all the time. We just have to conform and do his will. I'm gonna come to you in just a second. This man over here is in calisthenic mode.
I need to go, but, and I love what you're saying, and it makes sense. I like the idea of our leadership team. But let me say this, I've been a member of this community here for 57 years. There's not many of us in here that can say that. First 40-some years of my life, priests came here to consolidate 3 little churches to become one. So we all lost out on something in that. And there was a lot of hurt, we lost a lot of people. Okay, the last 10 years, the big deal of it is since we've all become one church now, it's been in fundraising and building the church.
Right.
Now we've lost other people because every time they come here, it becomes, we're just on a fundraising mode.
Right.
Everything we do is about
Father Patty, not afraid to ask for the dollar.
But let me tell you
know it
this,
well.
and he's not afraid of, I serve on the parish council, there's several of us in here. And to get to my point, first is, serving on the parish council, every time somebody comes up with a new idea, Father starts a new thing.
Right.
Half the people here don't even know what's going on.
Right.
And I tell him that. You go back to, just to give you a prime example, me being here my whole entire life, serving on the parish council, I'm up here probably with the Knights of Columbus and everything. I serve on 7 ministries. I can't call 8 people's name out of this room right now.
Right.
Now you said one of the important things was taking care of our people here. 2 weeks ago, we found out that, as we're coming this church, one big church with 6 masses going on, there's a guy in Toledo that didn't have any family, went to the 11 o'clock mass. My wife happened to see grass growing up. Nobody in this church knew he was sick in the hospital dying.
Right.
Now how do until we can take care of our folks here, we can't reach out and grab anybody else.
You're exactly correct.
And then, you say, we do a lot of things. We have dinners, we have all kind of functions, but guess what? The 10% of the people that are putting on them functions and working, we never get out to meet these other folks because that group is always busy putting stuff on the plan up.
Right.
So somehow we have to figure out how to take care of people and all become a big family here with 6 different, with 30-some ministries running wild, doing what they want to do. Nobody knowing anything.
It's almost like, did you guys see this and know the questions to ask beforehand? Remember what I gave 3 silos to?
Yeah.
Communication. The church is horrible at communicating. And a lot of that is because we have a lot of stuff going on. The question to ask is all those 30 ministries, are every single one of them pushing toward what we want to do? Do you see where the tough decisions have to come in here? If you have 20 people running 30 things, who is there to tend the flock? It's got to be a mixture of Martha and Mary. You can't always be Martha and clean. You are you're the deposit of faith here. You're the glowing embers here. You cannot pour your resources and energy into things that will not bear fruit. So the question goes back to, what are we doing, and is it contributing to the mission? Is everything we're doing? Thank you for waiting to the end to ask that perfect question. You were just awesome with that.
No, but
it is. Let me tell you, I do not know you. I want stuff to happen, and I'm frustrated because we're not getting there quick enough.
Well,
and you got all this resources, hamster and a wheel. I'm busy.
But everything you're saying is great. And if all we got to tell him is somehow we have to put a halt on our pastors.
Yeah.
Because if I walk up tomorrow and tell Father something, it sounds good to him, guess what?
You will. And that's where that leadership comes into play, where you've got to be able to look at him and say, Father,
I don't tell him anything.
I need one priority, and I need 3 things that we're going to focus on right now to drive that priority. Not 30, that's too big. You need 3. So we go.
It's hard to say no to Father Pat.
I know.
No,
So we go here, remember we're gonna recategorize, it's either mission essential, mission critical, or it supports the mission.
Is the leadership team being trained to know or to be able to identify?
This is part of that right now. The diocesan leadership team is just now going through this stuff. I wanna break this to you, and I hope I don't hurt your feelings, and I hope I don't break your heart. The people of the diocese is not geniuses. We don't have the answers to everything. We are human, we are mortal, we make mistakes. We learn as we go. This is uncharted territory. The church has not bled this many people in its history. This is huge. This is uncharted waters. If you'll ask Father Austin at Holy Family, he'll tell you, I tried 5 things, had to stop each one and backtrack until I found what worked. And now he's driving home with it. That was that passion. I'm not going to stop. I care about my people. I love my people. There's a lot of trial and error in that. So the diocesan team right now, because we are church and we are nice, is about to go through some, what I call, it's not the right term, but it's relatable, some corporate leadership training. How to have honest conversations, how to be loving in your discernment, how to be true to the mission. If you look at companies in the world that have been successful, they have a very simple mission, and everybody knows it. Every single level of the operation.
That's what I used to work for the big national corporations.
Yep. And every single person, whether it's the newest guy that's sweeping the floor or the CEO, every single person knew what the company was doing and the purpose. And what I'm telling you is that we've been together 4 years. We didn't even know what we called ourselves. So we had some learning to do. And I understand that what I'm explaining to parishes is very difficult because I'm living in it every single day. That change from maintenance, I show up, I raise money, I go home, I get a paycheck, I take a vacation, and I repeat. That's maintenance for my job. My job and what Bishop Kinnaman is trying to get us to do is I am an evangelizer in the name of Jesus Christ. First, my first goal with whoever I talk to, whoever I interact with, is to bring them the good news of Jesus Christ. And then to marry their passion with something that needs their help monetarily. That's a huge shift because the church is hierarchical. We've operated this way for centuries. And it's really no more than getting back to our roots. If you haven't watched The Chosen, watch The Chosen. That's really what we're getting back to. We're getting back to those one-on-one conversations. We're getting back on sharing our faith and sharing this good news that the world doesn't win in the end. The devil doesn't win in the end. Your soul is precious. Your body is made in the image and likeness of God. And every life is precious. And that is so foreign in the world today. So foreign. I'm a firm believer that if Catholics knew if they knew their faith, if they really understood the Eucharist, they would never leave. You can't leave something like that. You cannot leave the fact and the belief that Jesus Christ is present with us in his church, body, blood, soul, and divinity every single day. You don't leave that. You just can't do it.
I got one more thing. I got cut out, but is there any way you can make the PowerPoint available?
Yeah.
For revisiting?
Absolutely.
I'm the deputy grand head for the Knights of Columbus. There's points of this that I feel should be presented to the night.
Did you happen to go to the convention and
I couldn't, I had classes.
Bishop Kinnaman addressed them and talked about a lot of this. And I don't know if you know who the new chaplain, the Mississippi State chaplain is for the Knights of Columbus.
No.
It's Father Mike Austin.
Oh my gosh.
I wrote a letter to the to the head knight in Mississippi and said I would pray for him. You have no idea what you've asked for and asking him to be here. So you're going to start hearing that from the top down, what we're talking about here from the bottom up. I'll share this with anyone.
Is it on the diocese's website?
It is not.
I sent it to Janet.
Yeah, I can send it to Janet. I've sent it once. I'll share it with you. There's no proprietary information.
But it's also being videotaped for anyone to be able to access.
Yeah, I'll share it with anyone at all. Good to have you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome very much. Any other things before we close up? I know we've gone 2 hours. I'll talk all day.
I thought we had 4 more to
Gets
go.
me out of yard work this afternoon.
You said we were here for 6.
We'll spend the rest in prayer.
I'll give you a closing.
Uh-huh.
I'm reading now a fun book called The Bad Catholic's Guide to the Catechism.
Uh-huh.
And the author shares one of
That's fine.
It says, Catholicism is a wonderful religion, but a very poor hobby.
That certainly is. Could not be further from the truth. Folks, it's been my great pleasure. Before we end, let's go ahead and close in prayer today. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Gracious God, we thank you for the time that you have given us together today. We thank you for the gift of faith in your Son Jesus and the sacrifice that he made for us. I ask your blessing on these people as they come together to do your work. Please, Lord, give us the wisdom to know your will and the fortitude to do it in the world today. And we ask this as we ask all things in Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Folks, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
I reside in the diocesan offices, and I pick my phone up about 1 out of every 5 phone calls. Feel free to email me or call me if I can help you in any way.
The letter that Bishop wrote in the front of his book was published in the Catholic Pine.
Go Pine.
The Gulf Pine, the Gulf Catholic Pine. This is the Bishop's book. It's got about 20 chapters in it, and each chapter, kind of like the quad process, we've been discussing each chapter a week. So there will be additional information because we are the 10%. We need to reach the 90% that he was talking about. One of the best ways to do that is to become educated or, having the understanding or being in line with the bishop's vision. Because it's come in, and as we mentioned, we're ahead of the rest of the diocese. We will continue with that, aligning all of our missions, ministries with the diocese. But we need to first begin with ourselves and making sure that you have that relationship with Jesus so that you can explain what that is to the other 90% of the Catholics that are sitting in the pews going, I come once a week, leave me alone. That is our first mission. Not how many events we're having and how do we do this. We need to help others where they are, like the Ananias training, where they are, and take them to the next step of their journey. We can't do that unless we ourselves are equipped. So we have the next step is to get the next group of leadership team to go through the book and to educate themselves. So, or to bring the others. How many people y'all ask about quads and it's like, no, I don't have the time. Who doesn't have time for Jesus? Oh my goodness. So we need to be the first. We are the 10%, but maybe, a year from now we'll be 20 or 25%. But that's where we have to start, with ourselves, with the bishop's book.
Yes.
So
That
be
book
open to
is
being
on-
part of that.
That book is on the website.
What's the name?
MISSIO NOSTRA, our mission.
Nostra, it's our mission. It is the great, I have a few, but not enough for everybody here.
There may be some at the diocese. I'll look and see. But that is available at the diocesan website too. It's in a PDF format and it's broken down by chapter, not
It's
just
broken
one
down
long
by chapter, so you can get the chapter that you're interested in. But there will be more of these groups forming in our parish to have the book and to go through what we did, so that all those ideas, and we can figure out and answer all those wonderful questions that came up today. You know, because Father Patty can't do that. No priest can do that. This is up to us. This is our mission. This is the work we need to do. And we can't do it if we don't understand what it is. And we can't bring others to it if we don't bring them to the mission. So this is our work. This is what we should be focused on the next year in your life, is bringing people to understanding what the bishop's work is.
How do you see the chosen? How do you do that?
That is, if you have a smartphone, you can actually, no, but there is, it streams on several things, and then here we get into technology, which I really am at. If you download the app, you can project it to a smart television from your phone.
You did a good job, Dad.